Hello, America. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to our Saturday afternoon show, The Watch Dawgs. Joining me today is two of my favorite people, the incomparable Sandra McKeithen, way out there in Texas.
Good morning.
And we got the man of the hour, always on time, Mr. J. Jones,
What's
chairman of
good?
the Chatham County Commission.
What's
Chairman of
good?
the Chatham County Democratic Committee.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good morning. How y'all?
Hey, all right, all right. We started a little 30 minutes late. We usually start at 12:30, but Robert scheduled it for 3 o'clock. He might have been drinking that night before when he scheduled it. And then I don't know where he is now. I've been trying to reach him. I hope he's all right. But this is a 12 o'clock show. And but we got some voter irregularities to talk about today. And I got two of my best people here that love to talk voting, loves to talk voting, especially Mr. Jones. He'll talk your ears off with voting because he knows all the numbers.
Okay.
So without further ado, we're going to get into what we always get into, and I hope it ain't an argument.
Okay.
So the first thing we had was voting rights or wrongs. And that's the thing. Robert made these up. I'm just putting them up. Voting rights are wrong.
Hmm.
I think right now the Republicans are taking us to from voting, having voting rights to voting wrong. They want to tell us everything that we cannot do that what we've been doing for the last 50 years since they gave us a chance to vote. So what say you?
They're definitely taking us back, um, due to the last election. I mean, we're seeing, a lot of uh, a lot of these states, most of them run by Republicans, you know, uh, trying to pass laws that would suppress uh, the voting by minorities, and it's just unfortunate that in the Senate, I mean, we can't uh, depend on them to protect our voting rights. So I'm
But Sean,
disappointed.
now mind you, I'm gonna be the adversary today. Since he said I love to talk about, I'm gonna be the adversary today. And my thing is this, Chandra, when are we going to accept our responsibility to this whole clause? And this ain't picking on anybody on this call, because one I think I know about the two people I'm sharing this platform with right now, y'all understand the mechanisms behind everything. But when are we going to, and I'm going to speak specifically talk, when is Black America going to wake up and get out of the dependency mode and start holding folk accountable? And I'm not even going to go into the elected official side of things. I'm talking about the strength of making sure we run for office when it's time for us to run for office, holding people accountable when those positions, or understanding what the Republicans do. Republicans are doing what you should do. All due respect, when you in power and you're in charge, you do everything you can to keep power. If this was private industry, we wouldn't be complaining about it. You know why? Because in private industry, you do what you can to keep the structure and narrative in your hands. And so, what are we
You know,
doing on our side to make every time I see us, you know what we do? Well, kumbaya, they're gonna look out for us because they're the people we voted and got in office. We didn't get them in office because we didn't vote for them. So you expect us to be able to benefit from what they do for us? They're not there for us. And so they're gonna do everything they can to keep that power structure in their hands. I see you want to add something to it. I
Oh no,
told you I'm
no,
gonna add. No, I'm talking about Chandra. Chandra had something. She's shaking her head, but she was ready. She got something to say. I mean, tell me, be quiet and talk. I got you. Because I know you understand.
I surrender to you, Jay, and I've been saying the same thing you've been saying for a long time. And receiving pushback for it. You know, um, but I mean, I guess it depends on who's saying it.
And see,
You
my
look
thing
cuter
to
than me.
And today, watch this. Today, it ain't about calling out names. It's really focusing on policy, procedure, and who makes the law. It ain't about calling out names. It's about policy, procedure, and who makes the law. My thing is, we already know who the people who are destroying everything. So it's redundant when we talk about them over and over again. All we need to start doing is send them an email, and this is the policy you need to put out there. And guess what, Julius? This reaction of the law the reaction of the law is based on one thing. We showed up, so now they are fearful that we're going to continue to show up. So we
Show
got to
up.
do
Yeah.
everything we can to restrict the law. For example, and I know it's probably one of them points you're going to talk about later on, purging. Julius, Chandra, guess what? I'm going to help y'all out. And somebody going to throw a rock at me. There's nothing wrong with the purge, y'all. There's nothing wrong with the purge. The problem I have with the purge is
Well,
this. The problem I have with the purge is this. If someone dies and they don't let us know they've died, and they have a family member in their house who knows they're dead, and request an absentee ballot, got the ID, everything plausible, even with the new laws, and request and then votes for that person. Are you happy that that dead person paid that deceased person voted in this election cycle?
no,
Because
because
this
it's illegal.
happens. This happens. So that's why I'm saying when it comes to the purge, nothing wrong with that. When it comes to somebody moving and not changing their address or updating their address or system like that and putting in the new address for the new voting place, there's something wrong with it. Now there is blatantly something wrong if I live on Hasty Street in Port Wentworth and I've been living it and I choose not to vote, but I'm still living and you purge me. Something's wrong with that.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But I feel like it's the responsibility of every adult person that wants to vote to make sure that they are, first of all, voting, not just in the federal elections that happen every 4 years, but that they're voting on the regular basis in the local election so that they stay regular. But also, they need to be making sure that their information stays current because of what's going on in uh, in Georgia and other states, at the Secretary of State's offices, we need to be more astute in the information that they have, and just, if you're just passing by the voter registration office, pop in there, you know, make sure of the information that they have, and make sure that your name is on the registration list.
Big
you
sis,
know.
big sis, big
So
sis, big sis, you showing your age though. That was when we were civically responsible. We're not civically responsible no more. And that's the problem. We don't understand civics no more. I'm 100% with you, sis. I promise you. I hear everything you're saying, but that's because I understand civics. But talk to me about those individuals who don't understand civics or have not participated in the civic actions of what goes on in our community. Tell me about that. How do we get those people? Because remember, all this is tied to policy and procedure. You know, they understand that they wanted us dumb in civics. So guess what they did? They took civics out of the
check it
education
out.
system. They took,
Yeah.
guess what else? Guess what else? They took civics out of church, but we don't want to talk about that today. You know how they did that? They replaced civics and what we should know about religion and God and doing right for the poor and everything like that. They turned that into, prosperity. But I ain't here to talk about the churches today. We talking about politics. We ain't talking about the church today.
Hmm.
We gonna take on
Yeah.
politics.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Big sis, I'm with you. I'm with you. But how do we get that? How do we get people to understand when they drop the ball on civics in the school system? Because they continue to say, we don't even want you to learn about black people in schools now. So they
Yeah.
continue to do the narrative.
Yeah. But see, what we need to do is show them how everything impacts them. Because right
I
now,
agree.
watch this. Watch this. In Texas, um, today, The $300 extension just dropped off of um, of the
Unemployment.
unemployment. So this impacts anybody that was receiving those extra benefits. And this was mandated by the governor that you either voted for or you didn't vote for because you didn't show up at the polls. Okay? So it didn't matter whether you showed up at the polls for Trump or you showed up at the polls for Biden. You didn't show up at the polls to vote for your last governor. And and if you don't show up to the polls to vote for your councilmen or your state representatives, you're it doesn't you have to you have to talk to them at a level that they can understand. You know, even at the city council level, when you show them their water bills, how they either go up or how they go down, you have to talk to them at a level that they can understand. In September, all that 15% raise that people receive in food stamps, that's about to go away. So if you are a poor person that receives benefits through SNAP, you're about to lose that 15% at a time when inflation is hitting our food stores. And if you don't start to vote, go to the polls. Because see, the people that are in the Senate that we vote for every 2 years, they are controlling these things. It's not the president that's controlling these things. It's the people sitting. The president don't really have control of all of it.
But Sean,
He's
you
a,
you
he,
you you know this because the president is the executive branch. The state legislature and the U.S. House and U.S. Senate. That's your legislative branch, and you have your judicial branch. She carries out all the rights and wrongs and ups and downs, whether you're innocent or guilty. That's the judicial branch. You know this because you learned civics.
Civics.
But
That's
they
correct.
purposely took civics
Civic
out,
out.
like they taking CRT out, like they taking everything. Because see, civics was the big example first, until we able to make people see things obviously impact them personally, and that is absolutely positively true. Pastor Smalls. The problem is, guess what? You can show them time and time again, but we can't be reactive. We got to start becoming proactive. And part of that proactive process is when you see somebody not doing something, run for office. When you
That's
see them not
correct.
doing
well,
something, write them a letter. I talk to people from both sides of the aisle, both sides of the thing. You know why they get things done? Because they write them letters. Julius Hall, write them a letter. If they don't react, replace them. That's their mentality. Our mentality is,
but you know
well,
what?
he black or he tied to us. We got to give him a one more chance. He know how to play that organ, girl. That boy can sing. Boy, that boy know he can preach a sermon. Boy, that was my coach. That was my teacher. That was my leader. That was somebody how I respect and loved and everything in a different capacity. But can't pass a piece of policy or I'm leaving. I'm done. I'm sorry, Sandra. Go ahead. I'm gonna put myself
Well,
on mute.
And
I'll
see,
put myself in timeout.
you know what? And see, that's how we have gotten the status quo in our communities and all across the board with the Democratic Party and with the minorities. That's why we can't get nothing done in Savannah. I mean,
well,
shit,
it's
y'all
still
see what's going on in Savannah.
Chandra, it ain't even a party thing because your municipalities don't even structure under parties. It's a black thing, white thing, agenda thing, woman thing, man thing, old thing, young thing. But it's not a party thing when it comes to municipalities. It's
and
a thing where we have not collectively put a bargaining chip platform together, agenda, whatever you want to call it, and say, this is what we want. And if you don't deliver, we will replace you tomorrow. That's what we got to be at. I'm sorry, Julius.
And you're dead right, both of you. And it's going to take a combination of all these things for us to work together to make people aware of what's happening. Um, and that's where we go back to registration, education, and participation. We got to register the people. We got to show them through the education process of what they're doing that this impacts you and you must vote. Not that you have to vote, you must vote. That if you want to change things, you have to vote. That's your participation. You cannot complain if you don't vote. But I hear a lot of people complaining that don't vote. Like I hear my wife say all the time, if you don't vote, you don't count.
Julius, jumping on
Yep.
what you just said,
Yep.
man, and I want you to understand this. Chandra, you know what I'm about to say, sis. These people, they got the list of everybody in your community who vote, don't vote, who registered, not registered, who participate in the political process, who don't participate in the political process. So when your community ain't getting nothing, Chandra, guess what? Your community ain't getting nothing because you ain't participating.
That is
I
correct.
can tell you
Exactly.
right now, the worst communities that vote are the worst looking communities in our community right now. I can show you the correlation directly to communities that vote and don't vote and how many proceeds, dollars, whatever you want to get, how they get those dollars. I can
You're right.
show you right now,
Exactly.
Chandra. Right
You're
now.
absolutely correct.
And watch this, Chandra.
Exactly.
If I
I
can
know.
do it, what make you think they don't already have the plan to do that? I'm gonna put
Yep.
myself on mute again.
I
I
mean,
apologize.
well,
Yeah,
I
put
mean,
yourself on
you're
mute.
you're totally right. You're totally right. And that's the reason why when they're knocking on doors and stuff like that, they skip right over some doors. Cause I mean, and that's the reason, that's the other reason why, you know, back when certain things have happened in in when I was living in Savannah and certain things would happen, um, certain leaders, they wouldn't even go out to that area because shoot, that wasn't, even though it was in their districts, to go out there, they, well, those people don't vote. So hell, I'm not interested in them because
Water
they
flows.
don't vote.
Water flows to the path of least resistance. Water flows to
Exactly.
the path of least resistance. They go where they know they better keep the crowds quiet.
We got
They
a
don't
call
go there.
calling in.
Exactly.
Caller.
Yes, sir. I want to let you know. I made a specific Charlie Brown, and he was talking about Julius Hall constantly. He,
I can't hear him, Jill.
I can't hear him, Jewel.
You're on the air live.
I'll let you know that I'm here at the Civic Center. I am here at the Civic Center for part of the interview going on for the city manager. And I'm letting Julius Hall know that Charlie Brown is talking about him constantly, lying on him. And I'm standing up for Julius Hall, who's running for mayor of Fort Worth. Charlie Brown is telling everyone, people he don't even know about Julius Hall, and lying constantly. So I just wanted to call in because we can't even look per se. We're not supposed to have electronic devices. So I'm letting you know, Julius Hall, I'm looking out for you. I'm being a watchdog for the watchdog.
I appreciate you being a watchdog for the Watch Dogs and keep Charlie Brown in check. And y'all make sure that y'all interview the correct city manager because we want to have a good city manager that's going to let everybody get something on their agenda.
Well, and I'll do something
Is that
else.
Jamal Torre?
Yeah.
That some people, how they function and handle some
Tell
of
him I
this
say hey.
with themselves, they could do it. They could do it themselves. So that's why I want some of us to understand. Just because people have titles and positions, don't mean that they got intelligence. And we need to cease that type of thinking like that.
That's correct.
I
That is
agree.
Right.
absolutely correct. That's
So I'm gonna
correct.
go back in, and so because again, I had experience with America After Dark, now I got experience with Charlie Brown.
Sandra say
All
hey.
right.
Sandra say
Tell him
hey.
I said, what's up, man?
And Jay said, hey.
All right.
But Sandra said, hey.
I did not say hey like that. Y'all so stupid.
All right.
In the chat, I see there are sheep and there are lions. Be a lion, and that's the truest statement you can probably ever say. Because the simple fact is, the watch this. I've always heard this. The lion don't ask the opinion about the sheep,
That's correct.
and the sheep know it don't get in the way of the lion, because he know if he get in the way of the lion, he gonna get eaten
So
up.
eat up.
And guess what? We still got a lot of sheepish ways going on in our community. And that's why the lion is having a feast without having to compete with anybody out there. And until we
And
get rid of our sheepish ways and start being lions, we're not gonna get our fair share of what we deserve.
but guess what, Jay? You also have those that are sheep that think that the lions still have teeth. You got
Yep.
some toothless lions out there that the sheep think can still eat them, and that they can't eat the sheep without the teeth.
What since you gonna say it like that, and we're gonna stick on the sheep. You got sheep and you got sheep, I mean wolves in sheep clothing. You got wolves
That's
among the
correct.
sheep that
That's
playing
correct.
like they sheep, and they preying on them at nighttime too. We can talk
That's
about the
correct.
sheep all day long.
That's correct.
We can talk about that sheep all day long, but we
Yeah.
going back to voting. Chandra, I agree with you, sis. I promise you. Somewhere down the line, we got to come up with a new method of learning civics. I didn't learn civics personally just in the school. I learned it in the church. We learned
Mhm.
who our elected officials were in the church. I learned civics if you go to the church now, you don't learn that no more because the church is not
No.
focused on youth development no more. It's not focused on poverty. I'm glad it's not raining because I don't want to go out there and get hit by lightning because I'm just telling the truth.
That's
The
right.
church don't do what the
Yep.
mission used to be. The church has a mission. How many churches are out there living the mission?
And Jay, you right because
Yep.
listen, even with the civics part is the biggest part, and the civic part plays into voter suppression laws. Because if you don't know your rights and you don't know the processes, then they can put anything in front of you and pass it. If the church isn't doing the advocacy that they need to do to keep the people informed, then they're going to do whatever they want to with voter suppression. You got voter suppression laws going on in 44 states.
And the thing about the church now, I think the church has morphed into let its leadership be the guiding light. So their leadership goes up there and deals with the higher up restructure and then comes back and says, nah, it's a body of Christ. The body of Christ needs to go out there and handle the situation. And I know some people say separation of church and state. They did that for a reason, but separation of church and state, it also said render unto Caesar what is Caesar and render to the Lord what is the Lord. And so my thing is we still got to make sure Caesar's doing right by us because we deal with Caesar.
Yeah,
And so,
separation.
and that's government. We got to make sure that we with the right people represent us in government. And someone told me this the other day, and I'm gonna be quiet after this point here. Someone said this the other day. We don't need to get too deep involved in politics. That's the problem. If you
Exactly.
want good politics with morality, then you need to have people with morality in politics.
There
Until you
you go.
get people with morality in politics, you're gonna have all the shenanigans you got. I'm
There
sorry,
you go.
Chandra. I'm sorry, Chandra.
You
I'm gonna
you're
put myself in
absolutely
timeout, Chandra. I'm gonna put myself
you're
in
right,
Chandra. I'm
Dave.
gonna put myself.
Separation of church and state is what they came up with so that we wouldn't unite. They figure a 5031C and a tax break or whatever the church gets is enough for them to be quiet. And we've been sold out forever by the church for the last 50 years because of that. Is Mr. Bryant.
Yep. And my
Hey,
my take,
You go.
my my concern is that even with these CRT laws that I mean, well, not laws, but this whole CRT thing. What I felt is nobody was talking about the CRT when, for all my life, all they taught us was the whitewash theory of slavery and our history, right? So I feel like as soon as they started saying we need to teach history, I felt like Um, every black teacher should have come together and said, until we can teach real history in the schools to our children, we will not work. And that would have uh, that would have clued the legislators to say that we will teach real history, because uh, you can't change history by suppressing history. You know, we, I mean, what is this?
Yeah, her
And I
signal.
see her signal went out.
Yeah.
And I'm a kind of clean. You can change history. Number one, history is his story. So basically, whoever the his is in control of the story that we learn. Number one, and so when we're pushing history, we have to understand we can't let them teach his story. We got to make sure we're teaching our story, because if we're not controlling our story, then guess what? We'll accept anything. And when you're talking about taking the narrative of history out of the story, you're taking slavery. You're taking black Jim Crow laws. You're taking all the oppressionary tactics throughout history that have kept minorities from being able to do what they can do in equal terms to everybody else. When you remove that narrative, you're pretty much whitewashing everything as far as black history is concerned. And the one thing we cannot afford to let them do is take away our narrative, because the last thing we got is when you don't know where you come from, guess what? You continue to make the same mistakes over and over again. Chandra, you back? So I just wanted to keep it rolling while you was rolling.
We got Dr. Bryant done come in too, because Sandra, like, she froze again. Oh no, she ain't froze. She was just
Go
modeling.
ahead.
Um, Go ahead, Dr. Bryant.
Oh no. So y'all, let me tell you something. When healthcare plans don't go well, you got to step in and fix it. So that's what I was doing. And anyway, I'm here. Where are you in the discussion? I don't want to go backwards. So what part of that voting piece are we talking about?
We're just talking about suppression laws all over the
Okay.
U.S. right now.
Yeah. Well, the only question or concern that pops in my brain is the whole idea of the why. You know, I just have a hard time grasping why we go backwards in time trying to prevent people from voting when all you have to do is put the strategy forward. And even though with Daniel and I'll use this as an example. In our particular race when we ran last year, the one good thing I can say about our opponents is that they didn't use those types of tactics. They played, from what I could see, a pretty fair game. But when you look at the governor's race, when it was Stacey against Kemp, that's a whole different conversation. So my only concern is why, do all of that. Just put your issues forward. Let's start the same starting line, and let's try to do this thing fairly. But I just have a hard time grasping why we do all these tactics and suppression when all you have to do is put the facts out there.
Julius Hall, he wasn't on the call earlier when I said the truth about it, so I'm going to go ahead and repeat it again for my good brother, Dr. Bryant. Dr. Bryant, nobody wants anything play. You don't play fair in sports. You don't play fair in anything in life. Why would we expect them to want to play fair? And my thing is, and I hear what you're saying, and it's
Right.
coming from a conscious mode that we should be looking out for fairness, greatness, and everything under the sun for everybody. Because we should want to say, hey, everybody got an opportunity. Last year we had 70%. This year we got 72. Next year 74. The year after that 76. We're constantly growing as far as fairness is concerned. America is becoming what it is to be fair for everybody. But when that happens, you already know the rules. That means the politicians change. Politicians change, policy change. Policy change, rules change. The world change. Nobody wants to give up power. So RG, when you're in position of power and you know you don't belong in that position of power, you're going to do everything you possibly can to maintain that
Damn,
power structure
that's
in
correct.
your favor. And
And we
that's
see it
and
every
that's
day here.
and you got to remember this, RG. The one thing we don't talk about enough, this is a capitalistic society. We
That's true
created
now.
a capitalistic society, and in capitalism, It is about dominance and control and who can generate the most revenue for their own pocket. And until we get away from that, and until we put government is supposed to be the one structure that's supposed to maintain balance. And if we don't put the right people in play to keep that maintained in balance, then we're going to keep suffering. So that's why the answer to your question is why we don't want balance when it comes to government structure. And
And
it's
you
not
know,
a Democrat and Republican thing. It's a control thing. It's a power thing.
yeah. And
But
honestly,
we got a young. Oh, go ahead.
as you think about, go ahead. If you think about it and you expand that conversation, we can remove that word fairness too, because one of the things that I don't know if you all mentioned it, but is the corporate funding. Great example. Going back to my same example, Georgia Power and the power companies and others that be dump thousands of dollars in our economy.
Power.
Thousands. I'm talking about 10 grand easily.
Power.
Um, so when you contend against that, again, it goes back to your point you just made.
And here goes a young person saying if the church was one of the first places black people could go and learn due to segregation, educational resources should have never been taken out of the church. And that's
That used to
something
be the
that
case.
you don't even have it in the church. And the church is failing to do what it's supposed to do. And I've been talking about this for the last 5 years. The church has failed us.
Julius, I learned my civics lessons in church right here in Chatham County, Savannah, Georgia. I learned most of my civics tied to African American history here in the church. I learned about Durham. I learned about out there out there way out there with the black dang, I can't think about it right now. But with the black economics, I learned all that stuff in the
Oklahoma.
church of Oklahoma. That's why I was talking about Tulsa. I learned all that stuff in the church. I learned about the dissension in the church. I learned about how the black church left the white church in Philadelphia because they wasn't allowing them to worship God in the same way. I learned all that in church. Are we still getting those messages in church though?
Nope.
Nope.
The church is
All
more
we get
capitalistic
is
now.
prosperity.
You know what I'm saying?
Jamal,
Peace and prosperity. We still saying the same old Negro national anthems and hymns, and I don't have nothing against them. But when we're gonna move forward and start speaking the message of 2021 in the language this generation should be trying to get behind and develop and move on march on.
okay, the next thing, the Justice Department is suing the state of Georgia. Do you think it'll be successful? What you say?
Well, let me begin with this. So Julius knows this. I work with Shantae McLaughlin, who's running for East Point City Council. She is working very closely with she's contracted with one of the law firms that's defending Kemp in Cobb County. Now, that doesn't say she's aligning with them. She's just in that conversation along with Al Bartel to kind of look at what the law says. Now, when you dissect that law, it's a 98-page law. When you dissect it and you look at parts of it, now, it's very interesting how it's written, but there's a lot of misconception out there about SB 22. One, the Republicans aren't doing a good job of educating. And two, some of it is written weird, but if you take a moment and dissect it, it is bad, but some of it isn't as bad as it should be if they educate. And I'll give a great example. The whole thing about passing out water. Well, no, you cannot pass out water while people are in line, okay? But they do write into the law that water stations are required so many feet away from the voting line. Things like that are a little dicey, but again, it's not a good educational campaign that's going on to help people better understand a 98-page law. And at the same time, the way it's written is problematic because if you look at some of the language, you're like, well, you can build a loophole within that. So, I mean, on both sides of the aisle, I think there needs to be some more work done.
Well, but Robert, if they make it easier, they should be making the process easier to vote,
I
not
agree.
hard.
I
And
agree.
Why?
if
Why?
you're talking water,
Why?
and not
Why?
if you're talking water and not somebody like Jay was saying earlier about voting and shouldn't vote, those are okay. We understand that part.
But
But you
Julius,
talking about water or chips or a chair,
Julius, that
you
stuff
know.
is just stuff is just in there, Julius, just to get our attention off the real language that really want to have control. The narrative we should be
Exactly.
talking, the narrative we should be talking about more than anything is how they already done started. They've already started
Yeah, yeah.
replacing people in the board of elections across the state of Georgia with
That
starch
part is too much.
Republicans. That's what they've already said. That's the stuff we should be focusing on. I can give
Hmm.
two dangs about if we give somebody a bottle of water in the line. We should be focusing
Yep.
strictly on the
And
replacement of board of election people who are going to be the ones who count the ballots. That's
Hmm.
where our mind frame
yeah,
should be at, brother.
Yeah.
and and well, first to your first question, I hope that they are successful because these laws were written in bad spirit, for one thing. They're writing laws based on a problem that wasn't there. So why are you writing laws based on something that didn't happen? You write laws based on issues. And if they were saying that there were very few irregularities in Georgia and these other places, why are you finding an illness and then writing proof? So that is, so the DOJ is on the right track to saying, hey, we have a reason to take you to court because you're doing something to people based on something that didn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
Right.
think with the deal, I'm glad that somebody. I keep hoping we keep. I think we should have at least 15, 16, 20, 30, 40, 100 lawsuits out there right now against the Secretary of
exactly.
State. Be honest with you, my first opinion, because Trump and I don't name drop, but Trump had 5 lawsuits against Georgia, and they all were frivolous lawsuits. And guess what? None of them yielded anything. But guess what it did? It tied up the Board of Elections, the Secretary of State's office, and they had to spend a lot of money that was not in their budgets. But guess what? It proved a point because what they kept doing was they kept digging and digging and digging. Why aren't we doing the same? We should be have
Hmm.
tons of lawsuits coming against it because it's voter suppression at its finest. You're talking about doing certain things. Well, I segue you in good, don't I? We talking about doing certain things to actually hold accountable a system, but then are we truly holding the system
And,
accountable?
and before the DOJ, I agree with you on that. Were there any groups that filed a lawsuit before now?
There's about 4 groups that did it. I can't
Okay.
tell you which ones offhand who did it, but it's about 4 groups that did it.
Because and I'm
But
not throwing a shot here because I was concerned. I was looking for the state NAACP to jump into
Nah, man.
conversation.
really, were
I
you?
really was,
Were you really?
and this is before James resigned, and I love James Woodall to death, but I'm looking for James Woodall and my good brothers to
My
jump in that conversation.
something going on with my camera that I can't even show my face right now.
Look, I'm gonna be real.
Well,
Yeah, we're
it
gonna put them
should
out there. I'm
be.
gonna put
If
them on
y'all
blast.
looking for the damn NAACP to do their job,
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
you gonna have to.
yeah. And if they didn't, then
Watch this.
shame on them, and then we can crawl into the car.
Chandra, Dr. Bryant, and Julius
Y'all know I'm
Hall.
Robert.
All right, Robert. Okay. I'm going to, Chandra, I know you're going to be mad what I'm about to say, but I'm
No,
going to say
sir.
it. I'm going to have a conversation with the new chair of the NAACP because I got to give
oh,
everybody one chance. I ain't got to give
Who is
them
the new chair?
2, 3, or 4. Chad Mance is the new president for the
Chad Man,
NAACP.
and he's a lawyer.
I'm going to give him one chance
He's
to
from
show
Savannah.
me that it's going to be
Anyway, shut
something
up.
different. You see
Who's
this my long one finger. Open the door, Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
But
who's
One
Chad is
chance.
for Savannah,
and
Chatham
Woodall
County.
resigned? Who's the state? Who's the new
Right.
state?
Woodall was your state president.
It would
That's
just
what
go
you
under the
let
first.
them
It would
fight.
just go under whoever the first vice chair is, and I don't know who the first vice chair for the state is.
I don't remember either. But yeah,
Well,
Chad
Kim
is for
hold a
Savannah
press
County.
conference yesterday and said he's not scared of the feds.
He's not.
Y'all saw him. He said, "I'm not scared,"
Who
and
said that?
he appealed to the
Your
black
governor.
people to understand that these voting laws are in place for them. Kemp is a redneck.
Y'all think he's scared of burning?
country bumpkin.
Why would he be scared? Why would he be scared of the feds? Why?
I don't even know why he said it.
Johannes, why
There's
is my
no reason
boy?
for him to be scared.
He's scared of
Uh,
burning.
he either gonna win or lose. There's not. He
What
isn't gonna lose any skin off his back.
Julius, these jokers have put in the fix. That's why they ain't scared.
Mhm.
And the only way we're gonna fix the fix is we gotta turn out like it ain't never been turned out before.
Yeah,
That's just bottom
yeah.
line. Because Julius, we may lose 8 to 20% of our voting base on some suppressionary tactics. Let me go ahead and put it out there clear. We might lose 8 to 20%, but if we show up in full force, that 8 to 20% loss we get, we win, and then we can overturn all these. Then guess what, Julius? Next year we'll be talking about the flowers at Botanical Gardens because we won't have nothing else to talk about.
Yeah,
You're
they
right.
have to show that last year was not a anomaly.
Yeah.
That's what they have to show. And they have to show it all over the United States, really, in order for
Uh,
us to retain power in everywhere that we did, you know, obtain it. So
And that's the
that,
thing. Like Jay just segue into it. Uh, make sure you're not on the purge list.
Yep.
You have to check your voting status ASAP.
It's not called the purge list. It's
ASAP.
called the canceled list now.
Oh, it's the
Purge is such a
cancel.
derogatory
Right.
talk. So it's
Right.
called the canceled list now. So if you type in purge, it'll show you some stuff from old years. It's the canceled list now.
Tell them how they get on it, Jay.
Basically, the purge list. I'm gonna keep it calling it the purge list. By the way, the purge list is when you've been 5 years inactive as far as a voter in the state of Georgia. 5 years inactive, and then you get in what you call inactive status. Once you get inactive status anywhere for the next 5 years, you can be purged off the roster and rolls. And the reason why they do it is what they say. The reason why they do it, and I said it early in the call, is for people who are deceased, people who moved away and never changed their address or phone number or anything. Those are the real reasons why. What we want to do is protect those individuals. If you moved and you still want to be a registered voter, then all you got to do is re-register. Get your new license. I think if you get your new license, when you re-up for your new license at your new location, do you want to stay on the voting rolls? They'll automatically put you on the voting rolls. Those are important things we need to make sure we know to get that stuff going on. And as far as the purge is concerned, in Chatham County, since we're talking in terms of Savannah, we had about 4,200 people that will be purged on the purge list. 3,300 of those people are in Savannah, Georgia. 3,300. So three quarters of that is in Savannah, Georgia. The lion's share is in Savannah.
And
And
thanks
go
to your
ahead.
West Virginia senator, we can't pass a Voting Rights Act that will protect not only that, but would automatically register new voters.
Correct.
Your own Democrat from West Virginia.
You're correct. I ain't gonna
How
argue.
many I got out here? About 289?
What
That
you
what
say
you said?
now?
How many I got out here in Fort Wentworth that's
About
being
about
purged?
about 300. Right about
About
300.
300? Yeah.
And so
Okay.
my thing is, what we got to do is we got to take on that on our own, man. And like I said, check your voting status. You can go to myvoterpage.com, the state of Georgia, myvoterpage.com, and you can check your voter status. My only problem with that is if you have you need to, if you have not voted, stop telling folk, hey Julius, I'm gonna vote for you. Then when we look up your voter history and you ain't been registered, nor have you voted in the state of Georgia ever in your life. But you go and tell them lies. Yeah, Julius, I'm gonna vote for you. Julius Hall gonna give me your name, and I'm gonna look you up, and I'm gonna tell Julius Hall when the last time you vote, and we gonna get your voter registration form so you can stop saying that you ain't voted or you registered or anything like that. And I'm looking out for
exactly.
you right there, Julius. That's a plug for you right there, brother.
I
But
appreciate it.
but
Appreciate
that's
that
the
plug.
harsh reality. People out there. I said it earlier. I'm gonna say it again, Chandra. I'm tired of folk when we walk up to say, "Yeah, baby, I'm already registered to vote," and that joker ain't never been a registered voter a day in
Hey,
their life.
I run into that
Exactly.
every day here.
A day in their
Yeah.
life.
Stop lying, because it's not hurting us, it's hurting you.
That's
Hmm.
right. And there's no sense in having that type of voting capacity available to you and not using it.
That's it.
You
Exactly.
know,
And
you can change things by your vote.
That's
And
right.
we got to really tell people, we got to be able to, people don't feel things until the foot is on their neck.
That's too late though.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's too late.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Yep. And people think, I mean, well, these new people, millennials, they think that the power is in their Facebook page. I mean, they're not scared of y'all Facebook page. They're scared. Obviously, they're not passing laws against Facebook.
Well,
They're passing laws against your voting rights. You
No
know,
matter of fact,
so
they're gonna make sure Facebook is available, and they're not gonna do Facebook. They're gonna do Twitter, Instagram, those other social media
well,
apparatuses.
and it's a
But they're gonna make sure those are
multi-generational
free.
problem. It's a
yeah.
multi-generational problem. I keep saying this, and I'm gonna say it again. We don't do, and this is across the board. We got to do a better job of educating people on what voting looks like and why it matters. Great example here, and you probably talked about this. We're getting ready to do redistricting. You have people that
Mm.
were voted on that are in those seats that we voted on. Some of us voted on, who will be in charge of redistricting. Now,
14,
Yeah.
14 Republicans and 4
right,
Democrats. Continue.
that matters.
So that
See, you
means
having
that the
that
place is going to
conversation,
be gerrymandered to death.
right? But when people understand what that means and how that looks based on voting and not voting, that's a whole different conversation. So we've got to start educating people on why and what is impacted. Your light bill is about to go up. You know why? Because of Plant Vogel. That's because we put people,
Somebody got to pay for
five
that.
Republicans, five Republicans are in that seat.
Somebody got to pay for that.
We got to pay
Mm.
for it.
Oh,
Your
okay.
light bill will go up over the next 3 months dramatically.
Somebody got to pay for that.
And people don't
Well,
understand it. They don't think that their vote counts. They don't. They're too most. And I just got to be frank. You know, um, we're lazy to go into these damn polls. Get your ass out and go vote. Get out
mm-hmm.
and go vote.
Juice, I wouldn't just blame it on lazy. I think a lot of it has to do, man, is education, civics, all that stuff like that. I'm not disputing
Everything we
that
talked
lazy.
about.
I'm
Yeah,
not disputing laziness is not a factor, but I think the biggest factor is people just don't understand civics. And Chandra, we can talk another 3 hours about people just don't understand civics because and they understood that's why they're going after CRT. And I hate to
Oh
recycle
God,
conversation,
Jesus!
but that's why they're going after it because they understand absent to the
Republicans
body,
are
absent to
idiots.
the mind, whatever that old statement.
When they-
When it's not here, then guess what? We don't see it. It's not on appetite, and so we
It's
can
not just the
scream to the
Republicans,
loudest our
y'all.
vote, huh?
CRT is not taught in schools. Let's end
Who?
that stigma right there. It's not taught in schools. That's why I want to understand that whole conversation. But that's a
It,
sidebar.
it,
Let
it,
me
it is
let me
taught. It
bring this
is
down.
it is taught in schools. It's just not taught in all schools because I know in urban schools in Atlanta, a lot of that stuff is discussed but it's because Atlanta has a higher grade population of
Right.
African Americans.
They do talk about culture and cultural diversity, but CRT is a research framework. It's used to do research around power and privilege.
You
That's
think
all CRT
yeah,
is, power and privilege.
you think they care about that? All they care when they
Oh
say
well, no, no, no.
CRT in
I
five
don't want people to be scared about it.
watch this. It's watch this. You ready? I'm gonna put something out to you. This you want to talk about? Y'all want to have a narrative? The law the lotto. The lotto was designed to help minorities from impoverished communities be able to get a college education just like everybody else. That's
That was a
why it
lie.
was voted on all the way together. Now, let's fast forward 25, 30 years later. Guess who's not getting the lion's share of that money? Those
Guess who's
same
putting
communities 25 years ago, the
right?
law was actually designed for, the money was collected for, and guess who's funding it? African Americans, because we buy more lottery
Hell
tickets
yeah.
than anybody else.
Yep.
That's
Go to any
Yep.
convenience
there's
store.
you want Julius. You wanted to see how the law worked. Bam! That's how the law worked over
Mhm.
25 years.
that's correct. They find
Let me.
things to
Yep.
bleed us, and we don't get any benefit out of it.
You want to
None.
bring this voting thing down to a local level? This fairground over here.
I'm not. Y'all gonna start
Oh
talking
no, I'm
local.
gonna go there.
I'm gonna go home because y'all know I don't want to talk about local because I get in trouble when y'all start talking local.
Oh no, I love it. I want to know there was supposed to be a plan. Number one, not only was there going to be a plan on the fairground, but if we don't be careful, they're going to not redistrict, regentrify all of this area, all the fifth district, because we don't want to get out there and vote and
Fifth and the
understand the
first,
issues.
man. Fifth
Huh?
and the first.
You see
Yeah,
what? Oh yeah, yeah, because we don't get out there to understand issues and vote. And like I
Yep.
said, I'm trying to put it on blast, but I'm just curious to know, what's going on. Why aren't our representatives talking about that? Why aren't people who are thinking about those seats talking about that. Don't keep the people
Well,
in the dark. And that's why it's important to go vote put the right people in those seats who are going to tell you what's going on.
But Robert, I said this earlier, you wasn't here, but I'm gonna say it again. I have no problem with the right people voting, but we also have to step up to the plate and run for office too. And the problem with our community is when you ask good people, not just people, because those people are running unopposed in most senses in Chatham County, Savannah, Georgia. I can tell you that now. And so we can't talk
mm-hmm.
about we got to hold people accountable. Those people ain't doing this, that, and the third. Well, first off, we got to put people in there who are willing and hungry and able to stick up and defend those communities they come from. Number one. And we have a large portion in our community. And Julius and Chandra will probably tell you this too, brother. Guess what? When it's one of our friends running for office, well, we need to let that person run by themselves. Well, why y'all you got two black people running against the same seat. Why are y'all doing that? Old boy been in that seat 15 years. Why don't you let him run one more term? Or it's not your time. That's my favorite one I love
That's
to
the
hear.
Savannah narrative.
It's
I read
not
that
Jay
your
multiple times.
Jones.
time.
Jay
That's our
Jones.
own guard.
What you're gonna stop doing is telling people what they told me when I ran for the same seat in your district, Bryant. You
Uh-huh.
must live in the 5th district
Yeah, right over here in Liberty City.
because, yeah, I ran for that seat. And
It's
they
not your
told
time,
me
man.
Well,
it
that's what
was
they
not
told
my
you.
time. I lost by what? What was it? 88,
Yep.
88,
88,
88
87.
votes?
Mm,
88 votes.
Hmm.
Because it wasn't my time.
Hey,
And they
hey,
told me,
how long
yeah.
does it take?
But
Answer this question. How long does it take to fulfill a promise?
Mhm.
Because we
Okay,
got some promises that been on the table almost 25 years that
but
ain't
you
been
know what?
exactly.
fulfilled.
Y'all are exactly right. When I had a campaign manager and one of my favorites last year tell me that, and I said, well, why can't we get some of our more prominent, established leaders in the city to stand behind this campaign? He said, because you didn't do the typical uh, school board, city council, and work your way up. I said, that's bullshit. I say, if you're going to stand for somebody who's in your community, and by the way, that's why I have an issue with the mayor who didn't endorse anybody. You're
Oh
going to
Lord.
stand with people, and no, I'm not going to go to today.
Oh
Stand with your
Lord.
people or go sit down. That's leadership. I
Exactly.
don't have time for stuff like that because guess what? You too have to come up for re-election, or you too are going to have to come up
But
and
but but
need
y'all but
a favor
RG
for our support.
RG we
And it
gotta
is what
stop.
it is.
We gotta stop creating Julius Caesars, and I'm not saying that on pump for Julius right here. We gotta stop
That's
creating
Julius
Julius
Hall.
Caesars in our communities, and we gotta start creating champions in our communities. And a
That's
Julius
correct.
Caesar is somebody who's been in position forever and ever and ever, and ain't did nothing for us, and then showed us they ain't did nothing for us. And then we
No,
got
I
to start
agree.
creating people in those
I,
communities who are
I
willing to
totally
challenge.
agree.
And watch this. RG, you got to stop saying, "Well, I'm not gonna run because I don't think I can beat them." No, we got to run against them people even if we
It's
lose.
not that, but
Because
let me tell you what happens.
go ahead,
When
I'm
we
listening.
don't, and as black folk in Savannah, we got to stop the crab in the barrel mentality. When we do stuff like that, what we have now done is we endorse our opponent who sits there now and puts price gouges and puts nuclear plants in our black communities. We hurt ourselves when we do silliness like that.
Okay, so take away the names then. Take away the names in
Yeah,
RG.
I'm
Take
not
away the
taking
names.
people away
Listen,
when
no,
we don't
listen. I'm
support.
about to point. I'm about to
Yeah,
make a point. Take away the
yeah.
names, RG. Take away the names. All right. There's an election coming up in Port Wentworth, right? I'm gonna pick on my brother right here, Julius. There's an election coming up in Port Wentworth. If we write down 15 points of what we want to see as far as African Americans concerned in Port Wentworth as citizens of Port Wentworth, does Julius check the box? Does the other guy check the box? If Julius checks the box in that narrative, then guess what? Who should we support? Julius.
Right.
But RG, if you don't have that in writing to hold people accountable, we're just whistling Dixie right now, brother.
Well, I agree with you. Yeah.
because there's a lot of things that were promises that were made in the 19 election, and they've all been broken.
Man,
And
I heard promises from 1996 that still ain't been fulfilled yet, man.
Well, I can tell you right now, the folks in Yamacraw being lied to, but we're gonna leave that alone. Talking about promises.
You
Oh
keep wanting to
man,
do. Why you keep
man,
wanting to come? Why you
Cause
keep wanting to do this?
I
Get
like
on my
Sean.
they have
nerves,
been
RG.
bamboozled.
Go ahead, Sean. I'll wait with Sean.
I said the people in Yamacraw, well, first of all, they didn't have a voice, but they've been bamboozled.
Oh Lord.
You know,
Yeah, but okay. Before we go to Buddy Carter has to go, let's talk about Yamacraw. See, I like to talk about terms. Okay, the situation happened in Yamacraw. Who was that on? Who makes the decisions for that stuff? The Savannah Housing Authority. Who makes appointments to Savannah Housing Authority? The city of Savannah elected officials. So who do we hold ultimately accountable? See how we went backwards? We talk about crime. Crime is a byproduct of poverty. Chandra, Julius, RG, we all grew up here. Was crime this bad 25 years ago? No, we had drug problems. Yeah, I ain't gonna say we didn't have drug problems. But did we have all the crime? Crime problems became problematic when guess what? We gave away our wealth. We had one of the best education school systems in the 90s. In the early 90s. In the early 90s, we had one of the best education school systems in the 90s. But guess what? You got more elected people on the school board who don't have kids in the school system than you have kids that people who have kids in the school system. So who are their interests going to be tied to? Elected officials are going to be tied to whatever their interest is. If I don't have a kid in the school system, why in the heck would I go and do anything to benefit the kids in the school system? People just ain't built like that no more.
Which is sad.
And so that's what we have to work on.
Ivan Cohen said champions have not been created in the community. However, champions
I like that.
sure have.
I like that.
You're right, Ivan.
You want to fix the community? You want to fix the community? You start stepping up and doing what's right by the community, and you'll start seeing better choices made in the community. Stop giving people buddy passes. Give everybody under the sun a buddy pass. Oh, they didn't mean to do that. Oh, they didn't know no better. That's bull crap, man.
But I think you said a key thing. Go ahead, Drew.
I was just saying, he said buddy pass, and then we get rid of the buddies.
I keep giving you all these, boy, RG, when you go back looking at it, man, I give them all the segues, bro. I give them all the segues. Go ahead, RG.
I'll just say what you said a moment ago is so true, and we can segue to Congressional District 1. Make a checklist, because, once you have that checklist of things that you expect from a particular candidate, that gives you a way to kind of have that litmus test. So one of mine is, when we go to vote for District 5 is, if you're not willing to protect this area, and the reason why these areas are so important is because this is where your middle class black folks began in the city of Savannah. If you don't understand your history of the city, that's another part of my checklist. If you don't understand the history of the city, I will not vote for you. I will vote for your opponent. So that's the kind of stuff you got to do, is try making a checklist. Now, going to Buddy Carter. Where does your checklist begin with him, y'all?
Ooh.
Well, I'm going to let y'all talk, because I know the reason how to get rid of them. But, I'm going to let y'all see what y'all going to say first.
Well, we got to put someone in that seat who gives a damn. I mean, the number one thing that I keep going back to is when Ahmaud Arbery was killed, Buddy Carter didn't say one thing.
Why would he?
And that bothers me.
Why would we?
Why would he? Being, if nothing,
does he need
nothing
to?
Else,
does
if
he
nothing
need to?
else, you may not care, but I'm not you, but I'm saying, Buddy, you may not care, Buddy Carter. He's a human being.
But this is more. You want him to be in a moral state of being human. He's not. He hadn't had to do that for 10 years. Jack Kingston didn't have to do that either. The Republican Party had been in charge of all that the whole time. They've never had. Now watch this. I talk about the black agenda when it comes to our community. What has the Democratic agenda been as far as holding them accountable? I'm waiting. What?
Yeah, you're right about that.
What? When you look at the dysfunction across the whole 1st Congressional District, we don't even collaborate together.
That's true.
I'm not even going to talk about quality of candidate. That ain't even a discussion right now. When you go across the whole 1st Congressional District, we are not collaborating together to make sure that we can run the best available candidate we have against that. People just run just to run. And guess what? When the person gets on the ballot, I don't care what their indiscretions, what their issues are, we should support them.
That's right.
And instead of being in silos, we should support them.
Our good brother down and we talked about this. Our good brother down in Ware County has been treated like a bastard child for years.
Yeah, but who's that? But who's that on? Who's that on?
The past chair, Lisa ain't done a doggone thing. I'm so glad.
Who's that on? I see. There you go, y'all. Boy, I tell you, y'all keep drawing me into this. But y'all know I get all kind of emails and phone calls behind this stuff, man. God dang, golly. But real talk, Brian, you hit something on the head. And like Julius, you know me, Julius. I like to tell you the tangible stuff. I don't like talking about the emotional stuff. Emotional stuff is easy to talk about. The tangible stuff about Ware County is this. Guess when the Ware County got the first time it got is got a Democratic committee? It wasn't
Now,
until 2019. 2019. So if you want to talk about the issues, and I'm not beating up on Ware County, by the way, because I don't
no,
want nobody. I want people to work with
nobody.
me, not work against
The
me.
chair at the time should have cared, but they didn't. You're
Yeah,
right.
but the thing is, when you have a Republican sitting in the seat, the supervisor's seat for 42 years, you think she gonna give a dang about Democratic representation in Ware County? No. Same conversation here. It'll be fair and parks in Chatham County. The same thing exists here. You have 92 precincts. 50% of the precincts don't even vote at 50%. Who's done a case study on those 50% precincts to find out why they're not voting above 50%? Because if you can increase those averages, guess what you do to the overall average for Chatham County? You increase voter participation. What are
And
we doing?
you change people also. You create, if people vote, you can win any election in this city, in this state. Any election. All they gotta do is vote.
RG, tied to that Buddy Must Go conversation, 170,000 people were registered voters and did not vote. Now, mind you, let's take 100,000 people that we just purged off. That still leaves 70,000 eligible voters that could have participated. And I said 100,000. I shouldn't have said that. You take out the 10,000 people. I just round up 94 to 10,000. You take that 10,000. That's still 160,000 people in the first congressional district that did not vote in the last election.
Yep.
RG,
And
you got 24 state officials. You got 17 you got 17 state senators and 7 state senators and 17 state house reps. What are we doing to flip that? If we got the governor in the office, we don't even have the legislative branch to move the narrative 404.
and you know what it was interesting to me, and I'm gonna tie that piece to it. The Democratic Party of Georgia leadership, I guess they just ghosted, or they got what they wanted, they gone. There's a reason why the Warnock Ossoff train was so successful, but the DPG train ain't doing nothing. Because that to me just blows my mind.
I'm gonna stay out of that conversation.
I know you can't really go there, but hey,
No, I
the
can
only
go
way
there,
to
but
do this
I just ain't gonna open up a can of
Yeah,
worms.
that's a great conversation for another show, though.
right. My thing with that is you got what you wanted from being in that seat. Move out of the way, let somebody lead this thing, because whoever ran the Warnock Ossoff train, they might need to be in charge of the DPG of Georgia. I don't know. That's
I think the state, you got to think about it. I think, and we can discuss this at another time. I
right.
think when you look at the Georgia race, and that's your race, and I can't.
Daniel.
I'm horrible. Daniel's race. With y'all race, y'all considered statewide races. In the federal
Right.
races are considered federal races. And when you look at federal races need all 50 states' participation in order for anything to happen. In statewide races, if you two would have flipped, y'all could have changed the whole narrative of what kind of economics happens in Georgia. And so that's why at least 150,000 extra people voted in y'all race that didn't vote in the federal races. And so you
Yeah.
got to look at those narratives, man.
I mean, it could have been done differently, Robert. You're right, because if Warnock and Ossoff won, you all should have won also.
Not
Uh,
disputing that, but more Republicans showed up for the Georgia races than they showed up for the federal races. And that's the piece you got to look at it. You
right.
got to look at that piece.
Well, one of the things that prohibited them from being, well, Blackman got into the runoff, but money. If we
Yeah.
had money to get these guys' faces out, because seriously, when I first looked at it, we didn't know who the hell Blackman was. We didn't know what we didn't even know who I'm talking about, period,
I
who
know.
Blackman was.
I know.
Nobody knew who Blackman was. The only way we knew who RG was is because you introduced us to it.
Yeah.
And I
And
brought
Charlie
and I
Brown
brought
and
and
Mama
I brought
Daddy.
Blackman. I brought Blackman.
So we got to get these guys' faces out there,
Yeah.
because if these people knew what we knew, they would have voted for him, and they would have went in at the same time as Ossoff and Warnock, I believe. But it's money. If you don't have the money to run the proper race, then you can't win. I mean, you can't get there,
It's not
but
just money. It's also resources too.
Yeah,
Resources are
yeah.
very
well,
very
yeah,
crucial too.
yeah, yeah,
And I
Resources
was
are
resources,
gonna
very
say that about
crucial.
Jay. I'm
yeah,
gonna give Jay credit because Jay, he gave us some great strategy that really, really does work out. Because at the end of the day, you may not have the $10,000 that Georgia Power going to give Jason Shaw, but you can do some real strategic things. And I think when you think about it differently and you approach it from a different strategy standpoint, you can make a dent.
I hate saying what I'm about to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I commend both of them because both of them came closer than a lot of folk in a lot of time over time period. And you are absolutely right, Julius. Think about if both of these guys would have had the full support of the Democratic Party of Georgia, not the DNC, but the Democratic Party of Georgia, and let's say we'd have invested resources at $150,000 to $200,000 into those coffers right there, we would probably be talking to a public service commissioner instead of just talking to my good brother, Dr. Robert Bryant. And
and
that's just a harsh
yeah,
reality, brother.
if we could, because we could have, if it was a pack out there that said, okay, here's the slate, a Democratic pack that said, this slate, this is who we want you to vote for. I never saw one that said Robert Bryant, Blackman, Ossoff, and Warnock. And if it would have changed some things, how many votes you had total, Robert?
Oh, we're right at like 2.3 million.
Both y'all
2.3
lost.
million votes.
Both y'all lost under 100,000 votes, right?
Yeah, it was a slim margin. But I can tell you, we did now. I can tell you what where the issue was created. It was particularly for me was the unions. The unions got pissed off with me around Plant Vogel, and so that was a little dicey situation. But I think that was really the only pact that really could have made a huge difference in the state was your labor unions.
Mm.
No, I think Robert, I think one thing we can work on better, and Julius, I hear you saying the Democratic Party could or a pact tied to the party. I think, and I'm gonna tell you right now, and they know this stuff. It is all tied to African Americans, black people. Black people will control the narrative of voting. When you look at these suppression laws, all these suppression laws are geared toward minority participation because they understand when minorities show up, they typically vote as Democrats. And that's the harsh, cold reality. That's why our black caucus for the Democratic Party should be one of the most finest caucuses out there because we should be pushing the black narrative as far as getting into those rural areas and pushing that message. And my thing is, you can do it with the Democratic Party or you can do it outside the party. I don't care. Anytime I see it where we talking about a black caucus, whether it be tied to a party or not, I see energy and growth in it because then we start talking about our issues. And when our issues are brought to the table, like for example, a lot of people don't know this. You know this, RG. Julius, I'm about to put you on game if you didn't know this. Do you realize Chatham County is one of 4 counties that is all electricity in Chatham County is regulated through Georgia Power?
Yep.
We're not a deregulated. Now my power might get cut off on this because I said this now. So if my power get cut off, y'all know why my power got cut off.
Hey, but the CEO is a new brother, frat brother. So
Oh man.
Chris won't make some alpha man, but hey, we might be able to get your turn back on.
Well, we'll work on that. But that's the problem with the narrative. When we count it's either money or people. Those are the 2 narratives that control votes. Money or people. What we got is people power, but they understand that people power is based on our collectiveness. If we're not collectively saying the same message, then money is always going to win. Because money's going to send flyers, money's going to send narratives, they're going to destroy candidates, they're going to do whatever they can to win elections. And until we understand that, myopically speaking, we're going to keep losing elections.
You're
Yeah,
right.
totally.
You're absolutely right.
And there's got to
Uh,
be a concentrated effort. And I think, honestly, it would be good to see the African American caucus in the party collaborate with the churches, civic organizations, fraternities, sororities in the area. Because I can tell you the easiest way to win an election in Georgia is to keep that base going in Chatham, Fulton, DeKalb, but to get these rural areas excited.
Yeah,
When you get
I
those
agree.
rural areas excited, that you cannot lose an election. You can't.
You got to remember what was the biggest thing last year that we didn't see in previous years? Black voters matter. And
Yeah,
I'm not here to coattail, give them kudos or anything like that, because you have other civic organizations. But Black Voters Matter was the loudest because it tapped directly into black people voting. And
And
it
it's
right.
told them it was important to
educated.
vote.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And that you got to look at don't look at the shirt, don't look at the look at the message. Black
Yeah,
voters matter.
I agree.
And what that did was that encouraged a group of people to step out and vote for who they need to vote for.
They
And
made a difference. They motivated people. They made people get engaged. They educated, and they made people participate.
Yeah,
They
agree.
made a difference in that last election. They can give everything to Stacey all they want, but they made
oh, and there
a
you go, name
difference.
dropping again.
You are
I tell you,
absolutely
God.
correct, Jay Jones. Well, we fit to call a name because you segue right into that again. You must be reading the script
Yo,
because
I read it
He
earlier.
got a cheat sheet.
you
He
got
got
a
a cheat sheet.
photographic memory.
Um, technically speaking, she has not stated that she is going to run or not going to run. Pretty much all the signs point that she's probably going to run. We hope that she runs. If she doesn't run, we hope that we present a candidate worthwhile doing what needs to happen to win Georgia. I think that we truly, if she runs, we win. If she doesn't run, we still win. I think the narrative is we have enough registered voters out there to win the governor all the way down.
Oh God, yeah.
And so my thing is, I don't get caught up in the name. When she makes the announcement, she makes the announcement. She has until March to make the announcement. So my thing is,
Well, this
I'm
was
not here to rush it.
yeah, this was a national name here, so I didn't feel bad putting it up there because I know you don't
Yeah.
want to talk local
No, no,
politics.
no, 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 no. That's fine. No, I don't care about you putting it up there. I'll talk about Stacey all day long. I'll talk local politics too. I'm just trying to. I got to maneuver in these circles, y'all. We gotta.
Well,
If y'all give me a better set of people to deal with, I'll
you said
deal
that
with them.
we'll talk about it.
You give me a group of people who want to move the narrative. I mean, I have to hold people's hands. I have to. I'm sorry. That's just the reality that I live in. I have to. You give me a better set of people, or a group of people that want to move the narrative forward, then cool. Let's move it
Well, we
forward.
got some state stuff that in reference to Stacey running. We got the labor guys that are running. We got a
Attorney
lieutenant
general,
governor.
attorney general, lieutenant governor, ag commissioner.
Yeah, but I'm talking
Uh,
about what's happening recently. I mean, this guy, we got a state senator here, Dr. Lester Jackson,
Yeah.
who is, you know, and the guy that's running
hold, 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 hold,
also,
hold
he
tight
get,
right there. Hold tight right there. As a public announcement on behalf of the Democratic Party, we can, because all three of us serve within the capacity of some kind
Yeah.
of position down here,
Yeah, we
we
endorse it.
cannot endorse anybody. So this
oh,
is
ain't
not an
nobody,
endorsement statement.
oh,
We're
no,
just having casual conversation.
Yeah,
Just
but
like
yeah,
see,
you
he got
had
to
your
put out there.
disclaimer, I had to put my disclaimer out there.
He get
Continue.
okay,
called from
yeah,
the kingdom
yeah.
today.
This isn't an endorsement. We
Continue.
endorse
Continue.
we endorse separately and how we go
Continue.
and support the campaigns. But I'm just saying the other guy, and
William
he,
Bodie.
yeah, Bodie put
One
out
person I'm gonna
a
endorse today
list.
is Tammy Stokes. That's it.
That's a nonpartisan seat, but that's fine. Go
Right, but
ahead.
I'm
Hey,
endorsing her.
yeah, 32, 32, 34 people that he had on this list, a bunch of people. I said, wow, there's some work need to be
I
done.
think he might
What
Hey,
I'm
want to
saying,
look up for
what?
a moment.
Hey, one of them people right here in Chatham County.
yes, sir, sure was. It shocked me when I saw that name on there. But what I'm saying, what I'm getting around to saying is that people, you got to get out and do your work. You can't just jump in thinking people are going to support you. People are
That's true.
planning ahead of you already so they can get those endorsements. So if you don't get out in time and do your work, you will be far, far behind. Um,
I'm messing with you, man.
Jay Ivan Cohen said, what Jay has said really makes a case for political education. Now, if students who take political science courses can come out in the community with their professors to show how a political system
Cool.
operates, I still have my political science textbooks from the
Ooh,
time
I'm
I
messing with
took
you,
the
dog.
subject at Austral State. Man, if you still got those books, the pages probably falling out, Ivan.
That's probably part of that critical theory
Race
thinking.
theory.
Go on now, hell, don't start that mess. No, but for real, this is what we're doing. Well, this is
I,
in our district.
and Ivan, I know my books ain't as old as yours, but I still got mine too, sir.
In District 5, one of the things that we're doing is looking at how can we
You got it?
educate voters in the 5th district. And I think if we find a good pilot program or a good model for that, we expand it. But the educational piece has got to happen. And I'll give you a great example. People don't know the difference between a county official or a city official. And that no slight to folks, but that's when people show up to the mayor's office talking about the mayor's house talking about a county issue. You got to know the difference. And I think education will help us better dissect that stuff.
But Brian, nobody wants to learn. I mean, RG, nobody wants to learn
But
that.
they
That's
got
that's
to.
like that's too much like work, man. Why why
They
why
got
in the
to. We're
heck would
gonna
I
get this
want to
thing right.
learn? Who I just want to complain to who I want to complain to and deal with what I want to deal. And I don't want to vote, and I don't want to be registered to vote. Why can't I be that person, man?
You be around here mad going to folk houses then.
I mean, that's what I want to be, man. I don't want to be. I don't want to be a part of the system of change. I just want to complain, 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 and just do that. That's it, man. Why can't I?
We got 10 minutes left. And
Did we go
10
through our? Did you go through your agenda, boss?
yeah, it
All right.
all went through. It all we got to everything. But but we want to emphasize again,
RIP,
registration,
are you gonna be RIP? You better.
education, participation.
We want
That's
to
the
rep.
rep.
We're gonna call. We want to rep.
That's
That's
yeah.
right.
I like that. All
That's
right,
right.
you got a T-shirt, you got a campaign.
Hmm.
That's Jay
I
Jones.
help you run it.
He's the acronym man.
We
That's it.
want to rep, baby. We
I
want to
like that.
rep. We
I
want
can
to
see the
rep our
T-shirt
city.
right now. REP.
Rep.
Registration, education,
Look,
participation.
Cause
RIP
It's
or
hey,
RIP.
cause if you don't rep, you gonna rip.
Right.
That's right. Rest
That's a
in peace.
deal.
That's right. That's what they're trying to do to you.
Yeah, man.
Registration, education, participation, people, you got to get in the game. That's the only
Like
way
you
you can
said,
get in the game to go vote. You
vote
got
like
to
your life
voting
depends on it.
changes things. You know, I have so many people, and these people might be telling me the truth because a whole lot of people have moved this way. But me and my wife, we'll go up to the store and to the Publix or to the food line, and we talking to people. We ride our bikes up there, and we'll talk to
Bye
people
bye
in the
now.
parking lot and all. And they'll tell me that they are registered to vote. And then I look for them and I don't see them. And Jay will look for them and don't see them.
Hmm.
So, and I'm hoping that they're they
Just
recently
move.
moved here and it ain't in the book yet, because they're saying, oh, no, we vote. But a lot of these people, they vote from where they're still registered to vote from where they moved from. And we got to get people to understand that you must check your voting status so that you can make a difference where you live at. Don't go thinking that you because you've registered 5 years ago. If you didn't vote in the last 5 years, they're purging you.
Yeah.
You know,
And you
so
do
that's the
that
problem.
by going to the Secretary of State's office. We Google, and it amazes me how folks don't know how to Google the important things, but we Google all types of things. Go to Google, type in Georgia Secretary of State, and you can find out if you're purged or if you need to register, you can register. A lot of information is there around voting and voting rights. So that's
So
it.
that's what we got to do. I don't know where Sandra went. She went out and then come back in, but there's somebody on there saying Brandon. I don't know. I
Brandon,
can't
yeah,
even look.
he's a young voter, he worked on Warnock's campaign. I invited him to share in with us, but I'll bring him back at another time.
Yeah,
But
because
Brandon,
I can't even put him in because his device is not connected.
okay,
That's the young
well,
man that was on before.
yeah, no. Brandon has never been on, but Brandon has worked with Amico, Abrams, Warnock. He's worked with a number of campaigns throughout the state. Um, and has seen a lot of things that impact voting rights and voter suppression. But we'll bring him back at a different time to chime in.
Okay, yeah, we need to do that so we can get more younger people, so we can get the
Yeah,
registration voters,
yeah,
registration, education, and participation, because
yeah.
they're going to be crucial in all elections going forward.
As
And
and he fits that category. He's out of Candler County, Meta, Georgia, Meta West better, they say. And a good kid up there at Georgia State. So he fits in that what we talk about the millennials.
oh, okay, okay. Well,
Oh,
that's
here comes another millennial. Times two.
Y'all
He's a
not calling
millennial
me a
times
millennial,
two.
right?
uh,
Who y'all calling a millennial?
he called you
I,
up.
I thought I saw your son pass by.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
he over there eating. He done
he
walked by 3 or 4
generation,
times.
he generation Z or something.
He generation something else. See,
There you
there
go.
you go.
Jay,
What's up,
Johannes.
Jay?
He came out of his chair to make sure he spoke to y'all.
Yes, we got about 3 minutes, and
All right. Was there
uh,
any questions in the chat
no, we
line
got
we need to
about
talk about?
5 minutes before we gotta go off at
Is there
midnight.
anything in the chat line that we got to talk about?
Uh, Let me see what Ivan said to you. Other than that, he said it's his textbooks, but we told him those books probably the pages probably falling out. But he said no, they're not. He took good care. They were in storage for 4 years, and they're still good. Natalie said that the housing authorities should be
Yeah, I
investigated
saw
and
that.
audited.
It ain't a housing authority. I'm gonna leave it at that though.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't consider
local.
that.
That's too local.
I just think there are people that knew some things that should have been shared or discussed before it happened. And we'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
Things will just
yeah.
happen overnight. Let's say that.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And but we just gotta get everybody. I know Jay, you work hard and you get a little pissed because people don't show up to meetings, and you cussed me out a
I come
couple
to
of
my
weeks
meeting.
ago, and for not showing up to a meeting.
Look,
But
I might be late to this, but I know I want Jay calling me, cussing me out. That's a hard call to take.
Hey. Let me tell you something. If you ain't learned me yet, Julius know this. RG, I'm tell you now. If I ain't cussing at you, that mean I don't like you.
that's
Oh,
right. You
look,
don't
I
care.
know.
Yeah, I don't.
So if
I
I
know
care
that.
about you, I'm cussing you out.
Right. That's correct. That
That's
is
just bottom
absolutely
line.
correct about me. He called, he got on my butt, and because I missed 2 or 3 meetings in a row. I was supposed
Look,
to schedule
Julius,
another meeting. I guess got
Julius,
busy. I got caught up, and that's my
look.
bad. But we got to get
The
people
first
to
time,
participate.
Julius, I met Jay first time at Starbucks right before COVID. I said, I know I got to do right now.
Yeah, we got, you know,
It's a conversation we can have in public, but there are conversations we should be having in private too. And
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of people don't understand the element of that because in all jokes aside, in this last 2 or 3 minutes, I'm not just the chair for the party here. I'm also the chair for the first congressional district, which is all the way down to Charlton County, which covers almost 500,000 registered voters. And understanding that the biggest cycle of people that are not showing up to the polls, about 50% of that is tied to the African American community. And a lot of that is not just registered voters who ain't showing up. That's inactive people, and that's people who have never been registered to vote in their life, or been registered and never voted. And so they understand that if they keep minorities out of the system as far as voting is concerned, that's the closest way they can keep control of the narrative. But I can tell you this, uh, I can tell you with all sincerity, if minorities showed up, and I mean specifically African Americans showed up to the polls with an agenda, we can have reparations, we can have affordable housing, we can have poverty narratives talked about, discussed, and fixed. If we showed up in mass numbers, and then not just showed up when a joker showed up and they don't show up for us, we get them out of office and put somebody in office that will show up for us, because government only moves in the narrative of who's in control. Government only works for those people who are in control. If we send people to those positions and they don't understand what they're doing, then of course we're not going to get anything. But if we send people in them places that want to learn and are hungry about being elected officials for the people, we can change all the narratives that affect our community. But it's all on us. And I say that with high regards how important African American vote, the African American vote is in the state of Georgia. It is very, very important. That's why these laws came into play. We wouldn't even be discussing Senate Bill 202 if African Americans didn't show up to the polls. I can tell you this now. We wouldn't even discuss it because we have been allowing our message, which is our vote, to sit silent for so long. And it's time for us to stop letting it sit silent, and time for us to march into the polls like we've never marched into the polls before. Any law comes before us, we find our ancestors. When you talk about Rosewood, and I forgot it again, just that quick, Julius.
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Tulsa, Oklahoma. When you talk about Durham, North Carolina, when we started getting into those positions, that's when the voter suppression stuff came into play. And so they understand the power. When we understand that power, that's when we can become great. I'm
And
done.
that's
I ain't
that.
got nothing to
You
say.
took the words out of my mouth. Power. You got to understand your power and use it.
That message I put out there, Julius, it's at about 700 shares right now. The message that talks about it's not about the vote, it's about the vote turnout. That's the reason why
Yeah,
we got these laws.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
And that's
correct.
just
yeah,
harsh reality.
yeah.
It ain't about the vote, it's about the vote turnout. When
That
we
That's
was
when we
correct.
increase
wrong.
voter
Went right.
turnout, oh
Yeah.
man, we got to change all these laws.
That's correct. All right, Robert. Anything before we go out?
I just keep going back to that the new acronym we're going to use in Savannah. You gotta register, educate, and get out there and vote. Rep or rip. And if we don't realize that now, when they do this redistricting, you're gonna feel it. And so it's really important. Just understand the power of the vote, and your one vote does matter. And if you
I'm gonna get a
question
shirt that
that,
say rep or rip.
that's it. Yeah. And if you don't understand
Yeah.
that, ask Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They understand it.
Ivan Cohen say Jay Jones, practitioner of tough love, the other Dr. J.
No, he
He
just
give
mean
you
as
tough
hell.
love now. Me and Robert know. He'll call and cuss you out. So, but if he don't
Look, they
call and
gonna
cuss
start
you out,
with
he
Julius.
don't care.
What look, Julius, this how to start. What's going on?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
how you
Boy, you
doing?
know me
What's
too
going
well,
on?
RG. Don't do me like that now.
Well, we'll see y'all next Saturday, 12 noon. Don't forget, we'll be right here, 12 noon, next Saturday. We'll be here with some straight talk for you. That's all we know how to give you on the Watch Dogs. Some straight talk. We're gonna try to not keep it local because we don't want nobody to be uh, offended by anything that we say.
Boy,
We leave that to America After Dark on Fridays at
Yeah, they
10:30.
were off the chains last night, boy. I was like, whoa,
boy,
oh,
they were
oh.
beyond off the chain last night.
Like, okay. Oh, Jesus.
All right,
So
man.
Not
I'll
the
talk to
same, but
y'all
that
later,
thing.
fellas.
tune in to Pastor Smalls tonight or Tell It Like It Is. Don't forget, Tell It Like It Is, 6 p.m. Pastor Smalls, Political Unity Political Action Committee. Unity Political Action Committee. Robert, I'll give you a call later. See y'all.
Okay, now y'all take care.
All right.